5, 10, 20 years from today, what do you think will become of the future of the Nigerian child? Well, this program, Build a Child, Build a Nation with Amanda, is an half-hour program aimed at creating a greater horizon for the Nigerian child. I remain your host, Adaji Amanda. This show promises to be educating and enlightening, so it's about getting interesting, so stay glued to your screen and don't go away. However, I won't be on this show all by myself, but I will be with seasoned professionals who are also going to enlighten us more on this topic of today's episode. When I get back, I will be announcing our topic and also the guest for this program. Stay tuned. If you just tuned in, like I said earlier, I'll be announcing our topic for today's episode and also introducing the guest for the show. Our first guest is a senior lecturer of early childhood education, pre and primary mathematics in the University of Ibadan. He was a visiting scholar in Bagwell University, Kennesaw, USA in 2010, and also a postdoctoral fellow in Fort Hare University, South Africa. Composer of hip-hop mathematics, Dr. Ishola Akindele Salami. You're welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, viewers. Good afternoon, Amanda.
Our second guest is a professor in educational research and testing, measurement and evaluation in Lagos State University, a widely traveled psychologist and expert in data analysis, a member of many reputable academic and professional bodies, including the American Psychological Association and Society of Educators and Scholars, Professor Ife Olariwaju Abodurin. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, I said I will be introducing our topic for today's episode, and it is building sustainable education for the Nigerian child. However, early childhood education. Now, what is early childhood education? I will just give a little summary of what it is all about because our guest will be doing justice to the topic. Early childhood is all about the developmental stage of a child from the starting point. So I will be asking the first question to Dr. Salami, who would give us a concept of what early childhood is all about. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Early childhood education can be viewed from different angles. We can look at it from the education, the developmental processes, the simulation given to children in order to help them to grow. We can also look at it from the angle of a university or college of education program whereby we use it to train teachers that will be dealing with children. And early childhood education also can be a course, as a course in institution. But to this context, I think we're looking at early childhood education as that education given to children before formal education. That is in Nigerian context. But in the world, early childhood education is seen as that kind of education you give to children from birth to age 8. So I think that is the context we want to look at early childhood education today.
Okay, sir. Prof. Ife, do you think that psychology has a relationship with early years education?
Actually, psychology has something to do with all areas of education and all human endeavors, particularly when we consider the developmental processes of a child, matching that with the possibilities that they would have and all that they will have to undertake, as well as the programs of teaching and learning that the school will have to prepare and make ready for the different stages of the development of the child. So evidently, psychology has a lot to do with early training of the child, even at the pre-primary school level.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. And do you also think that it is being embraced and practiced in Nigeria as in to sustain sustainable education?
Certainly. The practice in Nigeria is similar to whatever practice we may have when we talk of academic endeavors anywhere in the world. Indeed, there are areas where we even have plus over other countries. However, the area where we may have limitations will be the provision of required facilities and putting round pegs in round holes.
Sir, Dr. Salami, since the developmental psychology of early childhood help understand children better, how can it build sustainable education for Nigerian child?
Thank you very much. To talk about sustainable education to Nigerian child, we want to consider the quality of education we're talking about to be sustained. Is the education functional? Is it socio-culturally relevant? Is it up to date? It is only when we have this education satisfying these three conditions that we can now be talking about sustaining it. So as far as our Nigerian education is concerned, as far as I am concerned, considering our Nigerian education generally today, we first need to build those three factors into the education. So then we will now see, maybe it is expensive, maybe it is this, is that, then we can now be thinking, how do we sustain it? So early childhood education will come in from there, because you can't start to build a new educational system right from the top.
So in a nutshell, you are saying that Nigeria hasn't actually gotten those 3 points that can sustain education.
No, to be sustained in the education.
To be sustained in the education. Okay, sir. Now, Prof. Ife, what do you think should be done to encourage early childhood education to boost sustainable education in Nigeria?
Certainly, I think at present, it is private institutions that are more involved in providing early childhood education in the country. It is high time the federal government, state government, and local governments get involved in order to provide sufficient facilities and the training of manpower or human capital to sustain the productivity and the programs that will be involved. So I believe, essentially, that much is being done, but there still is room for development.
So since the private sectors are more on this early childhood education, so are we saying that the government is not doing enough, or they are not even doing anything at all, sir?
Really, government is doing enough if you consider the training of experts, especially at the tertiary institutions. Virtually all universities in the country today have early childhood education in their curricula, and there are departments set up for it, and there are well-trained personnel handling the program. All we would say is much should be done and much more should be involved.
That brings me to another question to Dr. Salami. Sir, I have been to different schools, and I found out that most of the trainers of their preschools are actually not ECC oriented. They're not even trained personnel. So don't you think that it's actually going to affect the learning process of that child?
Yes, I agree it will affect. But let's look at something here. Because if we don't get the right thing we're discussing, we are also going to be saying something that is not relevant. If a good early childhood education, there are some things we're supposed to say in it that we know, yes, this is a quality early childhood education. The first one is the target of the education, which must be for the holistic development of the child. By holistic, I mean you are discussing the intellectual, you are discussing the social life of the child, emotional life of the child, and physical life of the child, okay? Now, that's one. Then the second one is that such an education must be socially, culturally relevant to the child in his or her immediate community, okay? So you can't be teaching my child in Ibadan, etiquette, or etiquette, I don't know what they call it in Britain. You don't do that to my child in Ibadan. That is what that one is talking about. And finally, when you said early childhood education, it must be something that is targeting long-term goals. It is not that we are teaching them today, they are writing exam the next, at the end of the year to pass and continue. That is not the target. The target is to build that child whole, to make that child a total child, okay? So now, if we are now saying those personnel we're talking about, and we don't see them doing all those things, then as you are being worried, people will be worried too. But I can tell you, the universities, colleges of education we have in Nigeria, we are training personnel for early childhood education. But the question here is, are they getting to the classroom?
That's a very, very serious question. Well, in that case, now Nigeria is diverse. We have the Igbos, we have the Yorubas, the Ibibios and Hausas. Now, you mentioned it has to be relevant to their immediate community.
Exactly.
So what you are saying is that early childhood education must be tagged with their immediate environment.
Exactly.
So in a nutshell, you are saying that probably even the curriculum should also be designed to suit their immediate community, so that the children can actually interact better with the environment.
Exactly. That is what I'm saying. Now, you will be wondering why this. Let's look at the other levels of education. At junior secondary, you can't be teaching children what a child from Ijebu or Ijebu land, the language of Ijebu, the culture of Ijebu people, how to eat a brikpo, how to eat all those things. You can't be teaching them at junior secondary. You can't be doing that at senior secondary or higher institution. The only level of education that is open for you to inject your cultural, social beliefs, norms, and everything is early childhood. It's early childhood. That is where they will know everything about their mother. The language too should be the language of the mother. It shouldn't be foreign language, okay? So it is when we do this that some of our languages, some of our cultural practices, some of our beliefs will not go into an extinct. And all these mishaps we are having in the society will not come in. But look at what we're doing. Everything is foreign with our children. If you see the little, I'll give you something when I'm going. I will send it to you. I said we are training foreigners. We are developing foreigners, using our own children as a human resources.
Wow. So in that case, with what you have just said, I am already assuming that early childhood is actually neglected in Nigeria. Do you agree with me?
Not totally neglected. Okay. I can tell you we are on the way. The only thing I think remains now is one, to put in the right practices using research findings. I will mention two of such research findings. You must have heard about IFE 6 years project headed by one Professor Bafafunwa. This professor, decades ago, has researched and discovered that we're supposed to be using our own language to train our children from preschool and primary school. So let's go back to that. Two, there are some other little researches around. For instance, now, there is one that discovered that we are overemphasizing intellectual development of those children in expense of social, emotional, and physical development. So all those things, if we now know that, this is what research is saying about education in Nigeria, let's now overhaul our education using those research resources. That is when we are going to say we are doing the right thing. But if we are still waking up today and somebody travel to UK tomorrow, come back and said, no, this is not early childhood education, you must be teaching them etiquettes, then you'll be wondering, where are we coming from, where are we going?
In that case, you're saying that English, which is the normal language that is used to train our children in schools, should be curtailed, because with what you are talking about, our mother tongue.
Ma'am, it's a sin. This is Salami Shola Kendele speaking. It's a sin that we don't know how we are going to get ourselves out of it. Why is it a sin? It is a sin for you to be telling me that my child, I want to initiate into my society, should be speaking another man's language. There are thousands of other levels of education where English language can be injected into the brain of these children.
Professor, do you agree with what he's saying?
I must have been firing too much.
I should agree with him. However, I want to draw back to the question that, are we doing it right? Certainly we are not too wrong. But we must think about the psychological underpinnings. And I drew an analogy the other time that we should put round pegs in round holes. Who are the people training our children for early learning? They should be well-trained individuals. For instance, a 4 to 5-year-old child may find it very difficult to sit down for about 20 minutes. But the early childhood education we have now in our schools is that which keeps the children on their seat doing more cognitive work. Intellectual. The question of readiness comes in place here. So we must reorder our thinking. We must reorder how we fashion things. We must equip those who would be training these children. We must make them to have curricular understanding, philosophical understanding, psychological understanding, and how to manage these children appropriately. This won't be realized until we train those specific individuals to go into the classroom. And those will be those who will understand that it is not by beating that you make a child to conform, but rather by making them to get engaged in more play activities rather than cognitive involvement. Early childhood education is not about studying much writing, English, drama, or whatever. It's just about playing and learning to interact and learning things about the environment so that they will be more equipped to be independent. But let's watch it. Is it not used these days only to keep children away when the parents are all away? And they stay in school for how long? And the question is also, when do they start this program? Usually one would expect 4 to 5 years would be okay to commence. But you see, even toddlers getting into the schools. However, we must realize the involvement of government. School is not the best place for early childhood education, or pre-primary school, I should say specifically. It wouldn't be the right environment because the child is not really prepared for that. But do we have any other place for them other than private organizations? These are areas that we should look into carefully. Otherwise, we will be arranging programs that won't fit into the larger whole later. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned something about the school is not the appropriate place. And I understand that early childhood, the school for preschool, normally they design it, they said it's home away from home, right? Home away from home. So automatically you're saying if early childhood is preaching the institution is home away from home, that means the schools that we bring our children, the creche and whatever, is not home away from home. Because what you're saying is that the school is not the place where we should keep them. So how do we merge these two?
Specifically in Britain, in around 2019, some studies were carried out about children who go to early childhood programs. And it was realized that what they learn there may be good enough to make them to even learn language and some other academic work only up to 11 years. But it becomes almost similar to those who do not afterwards. However, some of them before the age of 7 or 8 are not prepared to mix up with the older members of the society. I mean, maybe 9-year-old, 8-year-old, and more. Why? They are not grown enough. They are not big enough. Their language formation, the use of grammar, is not sound enough. And so when they remain in the classroom with those other ones, there will be a problem because of emotional imbalance, which they are not prepared for that stage. So if you keep them together in the same school, there will always be a problem. Maybe at the time when the older ones are busy with their studies, he wants to pee, he wants to play. There will be distraction. And then there will be tangling or bullying at that stage. So it must be separated. And that's where government has to come in. Even with the private schools, which run everything together now, some of these have to be separated. And specialized teachers be used to handle children for early education, rather than using the normal classroom teachers who are trained to handle bigger children. Thank you.
How have the government been able, because I know that in the National Policy of Education, we have things related to early childhood written there, and I don't know. So how would you explain those things written by the government? Is it that they are just written there, they are written there for us to look at it, and it's not applicable? Or how is the government, what do you think the government is going to achieve if they don't do anything about this? Because this is more like an eye-opener.
Amanda, let me say this as a fact. In Nigeria, we have good policies. Currently, we have good curriculum for early childhood education. We have good national policy for early childhood education. In fact, we have about 7 different documents guiding the implementation of early childhood education in the country. The only thing that remains, which I think where our government is failing, is 1, monitoring what they want. 2, they don't even know their stand. They don't know what is the function of government as far as education is concerned. They don't. I don't think we really understand it. Okay? Like Daddy said the other time, in UK, a friend of mine recently, a PhD holder, young, sharp, went there to go and be teaching in early childhood centers, not school. And they let this lady realize that you cannot, even if you are trained in Germany or Italy, where they have the best early childhood education, you can't come to Britain and enter the classroom with our children. Why? Because you don't have our culture. You don't know our practices. That is what we teach at this level of education. Okay? Their government will never allow you to do what they don't want. They know exactly what they want, how they want to implement it. They know it, and they follow it up. We also know it. It is written in the national policy that language of the immediate community or mother tongue should be used to teach our children. It's written there. But are they following it up? How can, for this example, in Lagos State, because this is a state that I respect a lot when it comes to education, how will a Lagos State will explain it that, no, all this private school, I will still give you approval, even when you are using English to teach at that level. When the national policy says use language of the immediate community, how will they explain that? So we don't know what we want. So I think now our government, they need some set of individuals that will really explain to them, there's no sin. There's no sin as a university professor, if I discover anything now and CNN want to interview me and I insist that I'm using Yoruba language to grant the interview, the whole wide world will still listen. It will be their responsibility to look for somebody to interpret whatever I'm saying. So no language is not to be seen or not to be heard anywhere. There's none. So let us see ourselves as people that can stand. Then that is why I said, well, whatever we are sustaining in our education, let it have those 3 things I mentioned. Okay, let's build it into our education first. So we now see how do we sustain it.
Sorry, if I may just add to that.
Yeah.
The use of language is so important to the intellectual and moral, behavioral development of a child. Indeed, psychologically, we believe that a child reasons and thinks about any element, anything coming to his sensation first with the mother tongue. And he reinterprets that into whichever other language. But today, the children we have, in what language do they reason first? Most of them have lost even any competency in the use of the mother tongue. So it means they are reasoning with a language they are not proficient in. So the better we go back to our roots. And if you look at it globally, if you look at the G20 of the world, the most developed and advanced countries, you won't find any one of them teaching their children in a foreign tongue.
Exactly, including China.
So if we want to develop, we must start from the rudiment. Let's start training our children to use their mother tongue. With that, they will understand other languages better. They will understand science, mathematics or mathematical science and other philosophies and other engagements. Even the concept of God is misunderstood. Because if you check the way we have written and the way we sing even our songs in the church, translating it to our mother tongue, it is a mistranslation. Some of the words are just stated, and until you get to your 20s or 30s, you won't even understand what you are singing until we come back to the roots. Thanks to Bishop Ajay Crowther, who tried to interpret this without an alphabet to follow. He had to develop it. But since then, is it not time for us to develop a more meaningful alphabet? I made claim to say that Yoruba is closer to the Hebrew language. Why not use a kind of alphabet like that? That's for another day.
Thank you very much. So, SARS, in a nutshell, what would you be advising even parents, governments, on how, because some of these parents, when you even tell them about early childhood, most of them don't even know what it's all about. They don't even understand the difference. They just feel that, oh, my child should go to this school, 1 year, take him to school. So what would you tell them that this early childhood, we should agitate for it because it's very important to our child development?
Thank you. The first thing I would tell them is that formal education is insufficient without informal education. And the informal education has to be given by the caregivers, like the parents and the siblings, the members of the community. So they have to play a role. But let us look at the precedents. The kind of schools we had never considered the ideas of early childhood education until after independence in most parts of Africa. Indeed, in my place, at Igbaja, we have a place that they call Jeliu Simi. Interpreted, this will mean, let the house rest. So it's a place to keep the children away while the parents go to work. And so all they do is sing, clap, read rhymes, and play. It is even better than making them to have more of cognitive activities. Today, some children can write, can read, even before the age of 5. We are over-pressurizing these children. It will be expected that until a child is about 6 or 7, all this may be unnecessary. Let the child know how to interact. Let the parents speak with him or with her in the language of their own, so that their interaction will be. And you know what the children learn from these early childhood schools? They learn to be disrespectful and to be emotionally depraved. Because it sounds as if, oh, the parents don't like me, so they pushed me away. How would love be developed in such an art later on? So what I would expect is, let's give these children more love. Let's parents visit them even in that crèche or in that early school where they send them to, so that they'll interact with the teachers there. They know their peculiarities. They know what sicknesses comes often with them, and they know how to take care of them by interacting with their caregivers. This becomes important. And so the parents should not take it to be, oh, what a relief, I have someone to take care of my child. No, it's a joint engagement. Thank you very much.
Dr. Salami, you have something to say?
Yeah, quickly, I won't go to parents anymore because Prof has said a lot about that. I will quickly go to other two stakeholders to this issue. The first one is my colleagues, those of us that are into early childhood education in the universities, in the colleges of education. if we don't want this coming generation to be raising courses on us, we have to be telling the government that we are not doing the right thing. In our conferences, in workshops, writing proposal to Ministry of Education and everything, we should let them realize we are not doing it right, so that we can go, as everybody is now shouting, we need to do it right. That's one. Then number two, our government should need to adopt something I call, because I'm sorry, this is the same education that produced me, but I think we need to do it other way, so that our society can also change other way. So I will advise government that there is a strategy we call wipe it out. That is the strategy we need in this country. We are going to start the new system of education everybody is making a suggestion of now, from the education given to the age 2, which we call the crèche, the whatever. That's where we're going to start. And we make it total, the way it has been described. So it will not be moving. When we get to primary 1, we change that of primary 1. When we get to primary 2, we change, and so on. It won't cost us much. We will just wipe away this foreign-based education. That is to those people. To our teachers, I would just advise, actually, this one also affected me. It's not the best students that go for teaching line. You know, if you are so good, you don't go for teaching. It is when that is when we now rush down to, okay. But we should try as much as possible to be able to preach what we've learned during training. You don't allow a parent that knows nothing, next to nothing about child raising practices. You don't allow such a person to come to your school and be dictating to you what to do, because that is exactly the beginning of this mess. The parents will go to school, please, I pay 40,000 naira. Is it this singing you will be doing for my child? Is it this running around? Look at the notes, there's nothing there. Such teachers should have that confidence to sit some of these parents down and train them, educate them that early childhood education, your child is not writing jump tomorrow, forget about it. It is meant, as like Prof said, it is meant for skill development, not academic development. It is an informal education. Go and look at the description anywhere. It's informal. So there's no common entrance, there's no joint exam anywhere to be written. They need to develop skills. Skills they will need when they get to primary formal education. That's what it's meant for. So these teachers should develop that confidence to educate the parents.
Oh, we are coming to the end of the show. I really appreciate Professor Ife Aboduri. He's here. He came all the way from his busy schedule just to be here. And Dr. Salami, all the way from Ibadan. He has been really wonderful. And my crew, I also thank and appreciate you all. And we have been able to establish a lot on this topic, building sustainable education for the Nigerian child, however, early childhood education. And we have been able to establish the relationship between early childhood education and developmental psychology of a child. And until next time, for another episode, I remain your host, Amanda Adaji. Bye for now.